So those sacrifices obviously came with not having the best of everything when you're growing up as a kid, but the schools that we went to were the best. So I went to very, very good schools. And that's, I think, something that I'm even doing now with my own kids, that rather they not dress nice, but go to a better school, because what you put in your mind ultimately is what sets you apart from the rest of the world. Yeah, then I started DJing when I was 14. I laughed because I saw myself as I didn't even know what DJing was when I started, actually. I was basically just a guy that collected music, coming from a background where Ekaya, my mother listens to gospel, my father listens to a lot of jazz. It was obviously like a lot of kwaito and whatever music was prominent for the youth at that time. And then this girl, I was listening to whatever music the white kids were listening to. So I have a very like eclectic taste in music, which is something that I think you can pick up from when you listen to what Euphonik sounds like. Started DJing and making money from when I was 14. Literally, like, a friend of mine was having his sister's birthday party, and he was like, we need someone to come DJ at my sister's birthday party. Can you come DJ? And I didn't know the concept of DJing then, but it was just fine. Bring all your music and come play. And that's when I fell in love with the art of DJing. I started DJing when I was 14. Yeah, and then I did it. So I've been doing it. I'm 36 now. I've been DJing since I was 14. I went to, when I matriculated, I went to UJ, which was RAL back then. And, you know, I did a course that I didn't want to do. I did financial accounting. Absolutely hated it. Then I got out of that and I did marketing, which I did for 2 years before I dropped out to like fully pursue my DJ career. And, you know, the thing about me is that, like, from a very young age, I was always the guy that, like, even now, like, I don't like doing things that I don't enjoy. I only do what I enjoy. So if I'm not passionate about something, if I don't have a love for something, if I'm not inquisitive about it, like, I don't want to do it. So, like, the way I look at myself, like, I'm very astute and smart and clever when it comes to music and property stuff. Every other subject and topic, like, I'm an idiot at. I don't know. And, like, I don't care to know. You know, and I think it just brings back to focus. And unfortunately, it's something that, like, a lot of us Black people, because of our past, we feel like we need to know everything and anything. And I say, Mina, I know music and I know property. Logogunya, I don't know anything about it. And I don't care to know. And it's fine that I don't know. That's where other people now come in. So, like, my social circles, like, I hang out with people who know about things that I don't know about, you know? And I think it's a very important point, Leo, about just, like, what goes into our own heads. So I think that, like, yeah, briefly sums up, like, where I'm from, and yeah.
Yeah, no, thanks. Yeah, no. And I found a lot of similarities between me and you, especially when you're talking about the sacrifices that your parents have made for you to be able where you are today. My father usually told the story of him staying in the hostel and adla amanzi adla ipapa namanzi anoshukela, which we call amanzi. Amanzi, water and sugar.
Oh, okay.
which we call umbubudlo. And other people would ask him, but why are you doing this? And he would simply say, I'm not eating your money. As long as my kids have got food to eat at home, it doesn't matter what I'm eating. Like what you're saying now, that you rather have your kids wear floppy stuff, but as long as they go into good schools, but also the kind of sacrifices that your parents made for you to be able to be where you are today. And you also talk about doing what you love, which is very important. And most importantly, focus, because that's what, like you're saying, that's what we lack as Black people, but as people in general. People, we want to do this and that and this and that, and we want our hands in many pies, and then we find that we don't achieve much. because our attention is spread all over.
Yeah.
And this is where we become similarities between me and you, because, for instance, if you ask me about cars, I'm not going to be a good person to have a conversation with. So focus, I guess, from this point on, I think what's important is people must focus. And I also wanted to find out from you, what do you think make you different from other people? Like, if we can say you are a celebrity, what do you think makes you different from other celebrities? And the reason for this question is, it comes from, I'm a celebrities most of the time. I don't know whether it's a phase or what. You get successful, then the next thing you splash your money, you buy cars, you do all these kinds of things. But I'm not sure if you have done that. Maybe you have accumulated so much that you have done all those things, but now you are moving into something that, as this group would call sensible. It's not necessarily sensible, but as this group would say, sensible, in that now you are investing in property. And we see, as this group, we see property as something that builds legacy, and you build generational wealth when you're investing in property. So my question to you is, what do you think makes you different, or what made you choose the path that you are now on?
Well, I think it's a mixture of a few things. Number one, like when I started DJing, I don't know how long ago it was, but I think it was like 97, 98. DJing wasn't a popular thing. So it wasn't like the celebrity superstar thing at the time. It was literally like, if you remember back then, if you used to club back then, like the only popular DJs were literally like the guys on radio, and everyone else was like in the background, like hidden away. You know, like I remember I used to have a residency at Capello's in Lone Hill, where literally the DJ box used to be in the office. So you'd have to open the door to check to see that people were still dancing. So I don't DJ because I want to be famous. If but anything, I hate the fame part of DJing. So I carry on as Teba. I couldn't care like about the celebrity status. It's never been a factor for me. Even if you see me in the streets, like I don't embody like what celebrity is, you know. So I just happen to be popular because of what I do, and it's in the limelight because of what I do. So for me, like the celebrity and the fame is a byproduct of what I'm passionate. Happens that because I'm in those spaces, that a lot of people want to know who are you. They want to know more about your life, all those things that come with being a celebrity. So in my mind, like I don't see the celebrity element, and I don't think it makes me any different because I don't know what other people do in their quiet times. But like I'm a varsity dropout, but I've never dropped out from educating myself. I mean, just recently I was touring now, like I was in Europe. We left during lockdown, and I was busy with a construction course at UCT. So I was touring and doing a construction course at the same time. You know, so for me, like education is key. I still read a lot, probably more than most people I know. I like to educate myself, even on topics that I don't know. So now, for instance, like instead of sitting down and watching Isibaya, which is like, for me, like a waste of my time, you know, I'd rather put that time into learning about why eagles fly the way that they fly. You know, like just as long as like it's me building knowledge for myself and also viewing things from a completely different perspective. You know, so I don't have the arrogance of saying that like the way I see the world is the right way. Like I always try my best to see the world from other people's point of view. And if I think this way about something, I always like question the why I think about this thing this way, and I'll educate and read like about all those different topics. You know what I mean? So like I don't call myself a human being. I'm a human becoming, because every single day there's information that's presented to me that makes me have to change. You know, so every single day there's new information that says, okay, the way you saw this was the wrong way, or here's an even better way to see something. And I see it with like a lot of my peer groups where like I'm actually labeled as the guy who's because he's this today and that tomorrow. And that's because when information comes to me that's going to make me a better person or make my world and my surroundings better, like I move. I'm not going to stick onto one thing because I'm like, this is how I've always done things for the last 10 years. This is what I'm comfortable with. I keep it moving, you know? I think also I'm very much human. So yes, I've had my swings at like, you know, being extravagant, but then again, it's like the way I justify it in my head, like I save more than I make, and occasionally like I'll enjoy myself, you know. The reason why I started buying property, I bought my first one in 2007, and that was with my dad, because like my balance sheet wasn't strong enough for me to be able to walk in, or so I thought. And then I bought my first one by myself in 2009, and dating back to that, the reason why property became the choice is that I was asking like everyone around me, I'm making money. I want to save my money, but I don't want to keep it in a bank account. I want to save it in a thing that will make the money grow, and like I can never lose money like in that investment. And the answer that came out tops across everyone that I was speaking to was property, 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 property. And then if you look at South Africa and where we come from, like you can't even have the property conversation with your parents, because for them, they were never allowed to buy. Even if you were smart, even if you had the money, even if you had the know-how, even if you had the capabilities, you were not allowed to buy outside of the township. You know, so unfortunately that legacy bit of it has carried on for a lot of people throughout that. So like now you have to ask people who are doing this thing, have done this thing, about the way forward, whilst still taking into consideration your background and where you come from. So property was like the number one thing. And what I did is that while I was at UJ, I basically moved out of home, because the time I was clubbing, because I wanted to drop out and chase my DJing career. And he was like, "Umuntu ongafundanga ufa njengenja." So he wanted me to finish my varsity, but I was like, this thing's not going to serve me any purpose, you know. And not only that, but even still at the time, like there were people like who were struggling to find jobs, and I was like, I've got a job, and I've been like, you know, like I was paying for my own varsity, I was paying for my own car from DJing. So I was like young babezela kahle kahle lento le. So while I was staying at one of the student accommodations close to UJ in Brixton, actually, if you know Brixton, you know how shady that place is. I saw man, there's a need here for student accommodation, but there's a need for people who are going to do it in such a way that like it's a nice environment to live in. And when it's a nice environment to live in, you can charge a little bit more. So when I bought my first house, I bought it with the view of, I'm going to buy this thing, and whilst I'm staying here, I'm going to be fixing it up and renovating it into a place that I can rent out to students. So after I decided that, then I started like doing the research about the area and finding out about the bylaws and the zoning and all of the stuff that I needed to know about. You know, I didn't know about it at a high level, so I started asking questions. And this is like, which is one of the biggest problems with properties, that like people buy it without doing holistic research, you know. And if you understand like the principles of property, which mind you are extremely basic, it's an easy investment to make, but you just need to literally like upskill yourself like, and not stop. Every single day, you need to be like learning more and more and more about this thing that you're doing.
I can see by the end of this discussion, we're going to wish we had you for the whole day, because there's a whole lot of things that you're saying that we would need to examine, but we don't have the whole day, so we need to keep on moving. But now you've mentioned several things there. But just from my side now, this is me, because I get this question a lot. You read, you DJ, you into property investment, you do coaching, you've got your businesses on the side. Where do you get the time to do all these things?
I make the time, you know, like I'm saying, like if you, so like I've broken down like what my day would look like to the T, you know, like I sleep 7 to 8 hours. Then when I'm up the rest of the time, what am I doing with that time? You know, like, and fortunately, like this thing here, like a phone has been like revolutionary, you know? So in the car, when I drive, I listen to audiobooks. When I'm on my phone, like people think I'm like busy on Instagram and Twitter. I'm actually reading. Like, so I spend a lot of my time reading, and like, I don't have like time that, or things that I waste time on. Like, you're not going to find me Netflixing and chilling. You're not going to find me like, even when I see my friends, like I see my friends like in the midst of work, you know? So when I go out and hang with my friends, it's because I'm at Rockets and I'm playing that day. So like, I don't, you know, like, so I think all of us have a lot of time. And then also, like, then it's the one quote that everyone hates is that we all have the same 24 hours. What you do with your 24 hours is what, like, you know. So you know what I do as well, and this is how I look at it. I've got two assistants. Help me with the stuff that I need to do on a daily, on a monthly, on a weekly basis, that I had to work out of my own head as well. Is that as Black people, we think that we need to do everything ourselves. And you don't need to do everything yourself. Find other people that, and this is a problem, is that like, because we don't have people that we feel we can trust, but find people that can help offload like small tasks from you so that you can focus on the bigger things. You know, like if, let's say for instance, when I go buy a property, like it'll show up on my desk. I'll look at it at a headline. I'll decide yes or no. If I decide yes, within 5 minutes of being in that property, I know whether I want to do the deal or not. Then the deal gets done by people that like I trust to get the deal done. You know, I'm not there like at every single juncture, making sure that every single thing is done. You know what I mean? Like you can't grow that way. Yes, you need to understand what things like go into the things that you need to do, but also you don't need to be the one physically doing them yourself.
Yeah, we all have the same 24 hours. I love that. Some people, as we are here learning, some people are out there either watching Netflix, or they are in bed, or they are doing things that are not really moving them forward. But those are their lives. Anyone is free to do whatever they want with their lives. And as long as people are content, and this is my belief, as long as you are content with the way you are leading your life, don't now try and criticize Euphonik's way of doing things. And Euphonik has got no right to say whatever that you're doing is right or wrong. But all I'm saying is that we must just be content with our lives and know that our futures and the way we live our life is going to lead to a better future.
You know, because also there's this thing that like I see a lot of people doing, where it's so easy now to like open a Twitter page and say CEO of whatever properties, but you don't do anything within the property space, or like the stuff that you're doing within the property is like, it's not, you can't even call it investing, you know, because it's so easy to apply lipstick on to what we look like so that other people can feel like, oh, this guy does this. So like every single day, like I figure out I've got music and I've got property and I've got stuff that like revolves around these two worlds. And every single day I ask myself, what am I doing about each one of these things? And what am I doing about my own personal growth? So every single day, like even if it's 0.0001%, I'm adding to it. You know, and at the end of the year, like I've done a lot of work, and I've done a lot of work quickly, because I don't like you won't even catch me like, you know, like even when I go to a restaurant to go eat, I'm like, yeah, I'll be present and I'll eat, but like I'm not going to be here longer than an hour, because what am I doing at a restaurant sitting for 2.5 hours eating and drinking? Like that time can be spent doing other things. So you're absolutely right about being efficient with your time. And also just question yourself. Like if you say, you know, like for instance, let's take Isiba and Generations, for instance. If you say to, you know what, like from my downtime, and everybody needs to have downtime, I'm going to spend an hour watching TV and 4 hours reading. Like, as long as you've justified it in your own head and you've questioned yourself and you are at peace with the thought and the questioning of the thought, then do you. Yeah.
Very important. Do you, don't do other people. Do you. Right? Yeah. The next one, so maybe now let's get into property. So how does your portfolio look like? You spoke about student accommodation. Do you have student accommodation only, or you have you are in other properties as well?
So at the moment, what I'm doing is that I've got student accommodation and I've got like a residential portfolio. But what I'm doing at the moment is that, like, I've also been like, you know, that African proverb that says, you go alone, you'll get there quickly, but if you go together, you'll get far.
Yes.
So I then ask myself, okay, fine, who's doing property at the highest level possible, like in South Africa? Who's doing architecture and design at the highest level possible in South Africa? And me personally, I'm of the belief that, like, I don't need to start from scratch and learn from scratch when there are so many people out there who've done this thing and do this thing at the highest level, you know? So what I then do is that, like, I team up and partner up with people who are doing things at the highest level, and I learn from them. Because what I did is that, like, when I started my property stuff, like after that house that I converted and turned into student accommodation, I then went and I had, like, at the time, like 14 apartments in and around Melville, Auckland Park, Braamfontein. But like, I was calling myself a property investor then, and I wasn't. It's not investing. Because what is investing? Investing literally boils down to the numbers. You having a property that costs you 4,000 Rand a month, right? But you're only making 2,500 Rand from it a month. That's not investing. It's a liability, that thing. You're losing money. So how can you call yourself an investor when you're losing money? You're a guy that's losing money from a property that you bought. You're not an investor, because an investor makes money from the properties that they bought. So I found myself, like, buying a flat, let's say, call it, for instance, it was like 400K. The bond was 4,000 Rand. The rent I was getting was like 3.5. The levies were 1.1. So in the end, like, I was always having to put money into these properties. Yeah, it looked amazing, like on paper, but like it was actually taking out of my bottom line instead of adding to my bottom line. And the maths part of it is, like, the most important. So that's where the focus for people needs to be, like, focus on the maths, because we don't know and we don't understand the maths, and we need to teach ourselves about the maths. like a brick in Soweto costs the same as a brick in Sandton, but
Yes.
the property in Sandton is more expensive than property in Soweto. What does it cost to build a house in Sandton versus Soweto? It costs the same, but what's the capital appreciation in Soweto versus Sandton? You know what I'm saying? And so, like, there's all those factors that come into play that we don't think about. So, Mina, I'm very like, all my stuff is residential, and again, it's because I'm more passionate about making sure that South Africans live in decent places than I am about, you know, like where dealerships, like commercial property, for instance.
Okay. You see, you making me to be speechless. I'm not sure how is the rest of the people feel right now. Now, you touched on this thing that we get taught, and this is of no fault of ourselves, but rather as a result of our history. When you start getting into property investing, you get these developers, or you get people that have got no coaches and mentors that have got no interest in you personally as an individual. They then tell you that property is about capital growth and that rentals increase every year. So you get in with that hope that you're buying this property and you're making a net loss, but it is going to, the rent is going to increase, and over time, then Moses. Moses, please mute yourselves because I can't even mute you. Please mute yourself. Hey, Moses is a problem. He's probably walking on water. So I was saying, so you get the people, and then they tell you that, no, invest in this property for over time, you are going to start making profits. But only to find that these people are, it's not because of they are giving you good advice, but they just want your money, either because of you speaking to a mentor or a coach, or you're speaking to a developer, because most of the new developments, they've got that problem. And we are enticed to then go in and invest in that. And as a result, you find yourself being that guy, like you call, you're not an investor, but a guy who's losing money trying to invest in property. And this is as a result of our history. And this is why we've got platforms like this. And this is why we've got people like you to come in this platform to spread the gospel, to say there's lots of opportunities out there that people can invest in. There's no reason to invest in any deal or any property that loses you money at the end of the day, unless you're going into it intentionally, knowing very well why you are investing and why you are losing money in it, not because of you are promised to say one day that because of capital appreciation or rental increases, you are going to make money. Now, Euphonik, maybe let me, before I ask you this question, I also want to touch on another important factor as well that you pointed, contrasting investing in Soweto and investing in Sandton. And this is the same view that I have, because for us, especially people who come from Goma and from our small towns, we always believe that you can build rooms. For instance, for us, Kokasi, we build back rooms. So you can build rooms. We believe that you can build rooms, go high or wherever in your small town, and you make money from that, only to find that the rate of return that you get from the money that you invest go high with the money that you invest, that you would have invested here, is much less go high than it would be here. So this is where, again, the maths that you're talking about becomes very essential, that when people decide to make an investment, they must analyze the investment and make sure that they are using their money for the betterment of their future, not invest money just for the sake of of investing. Now, with
Yep.
with your portfolio, how have you been coping with COVID, especially with student accommodation? Because I know, for instance, with normal residential units, we have lost money, but we know that things are starting to improve. You had people that you had to negotiate with them. But with student accommodation, students were just out, and in some cases, people did not get any money during that period. How have you coped, or how did you strategize around COVID and the impact on your student accommodation?
So with my stuff, basically there was obviously it's been very difficult. But what I've done is that my stuff from the beginning, really, like I don't do the deals with the students, and I don't get involved, obviously, because like the last thing I need as Euphonik is to have people like phone me for whatever reason. So I've got an agent that's in the middle, and all my leases are with the kids and with the kids' parents. So the parents are the ones that sign the lease. So basically, like it's been very, very tough. But the people that like have needed to like go on payment holidays, we've basically said to them, cool, prove to us, so 3-month bank statement, a letter from the employer, or proof that like you are out of work. And the kids that had to move back home, like it is what it is,
Mm.
yeah.
And what's your
It's been
view of
tough.
the?
It's been tough, but also I think the human element of what we are doing needs to come into play,
Yes.
But also having an understanding that humans are also very, very tricky, So it's like, how do you mitigate the risk of tricky humans versus understanding for those that really need the help? Yeah.
Yeah, no, we had to be not to be landlords, but we had to be human as well. I actually wrote a detailed post about how we must deal with the defaulters, as we would call it, during this period, because some landlords were just saying, or property investors were just saying, if you don't pay, you go. Whereas it was also locked down, people had nowhere to go, but they were just saying, no, you go. If you don't pay, you go, which cannot be a human. And we need to be ethical and kind investors as well. Now, I know I'm moving very fast because of, like I said, the time, and we don't have enough time. And again, I just want to emphasize, because I'm sure I know that I'm going to get lots of complaints about this talk. I just want to emphasize again that the purpose of these sessions is not to get into detail about everything, but it's just to raise awareness. And Euphonik is doing a brilliant job in terms of that. I'm sure you've made as much notes as I have in the few minutes that Euphonik has been with us. Now, Euphonik, I just want to find out from you, and I see that property has, as a person who's following you on Twitter, I see that property has opened doors for you, not just as a property investor, but there's many other things that you are doing. What would you attribute that to? The fact that you got into this, like for instance, if I were to take my case, I got into property because I wanted to build a legacy, and I wanted to generate and hopefully one day be financially free. But I find myself now having to organize these sessions and do something that I'm very passionate about, which is sharing information. And that is only because of I got out there and got involved in this business that's called, or in this thing that's called property investing. What would you attribute the fact that the property opening doors to you to? In fact, if you don't mind, maybe we can start by just sharing with the rest of the people, what is it that property has done for you? Just in general, like opening the doors and.
I'm actually interested to hear what you think it's done for me.
Yeah. That's a nice comeback. I think it's doing wonders for you. Obviously, I'm not comparing it with the other things that you're doing, because you're doing lots of things that I might not necessarily have interest in. But as far as a property is concerned, it has raised your, the way I see it, it has raised your profile as a person. You're now seen as a thought leader in this industry. But also, I like what you said at the beginning, that you are not just, because sometimes I'm interrupting myself here because I got excited with what you said at the beginning. Sometimes you get people who have your status, celebrity status, and then they've got brands that want to work with them. So for instance, you have Euphonik, and then there is this one brand that want to work with Euphonik. And then that brand is in properties. Now Euphonik sees himself as a property investor, although he was not in property, and find himself having to manipulate and behave in a way that is a property investor, whereas actually deep down he's not. But what you said to us right at the beginning is that you have educated yourself. So this brand did not come to an empty, I know I should not be using this phrase, an empty vessel, but it came to someone who's got his heart into property investing, and someone who's passionate about what he's doing. And it also shows up in this discussion today, but it also shows up in the things that we have done. So what I was trying to say is that property has the way I see it, property has alleviated your status, but also it's nice for me because it came, this benefits of you being in property came into something that you are also very passionate about.
Yeah.
So that's me.
I mean, like, yeah, I mean, like, so my love for building things also like started at like a very young age, you know, like I always loved putting things apart and putting them together. And my uncle is actually one of the first black civil engineers to graduate from WITS. And he's the part of the guys that built that that Louis Trichardt prison. So I've always been like very passionate about property. When I started getting into it, so I'm passionate about property, but ask yourself, as a black South African, how often are you guys sitting at the dinner table as a family eating? And if you are sitting at the dinner table eating, what conversations are you guys having at the dinner table while you're eating? So I had this uncle, he passed away sadly. I'd never ever had a conversation about property with him. Yeah? So I obviously, like, nobody else in my family does property. So I started educating myself and learning myself. I lost a lot of money. I made money. I made a lot of mistakes. Because of not having formal education about doing something, I also found like a few tricks that like I could do that were legal, that made my property journey a little bit better. But with everything that I know and don't know about property, I know that there's people behind me that like know nothing about property. But because you drive past the place and they're like, great investment, you're like, maybe I should go to this place. You bring the brochure, you go home to your husband and you're like, I found this place, it's a great investment. Like, the investment's already been made. So with the mistakes that I made, and like the conversations that I was hearing about other people like making the same mistakes in property, like, and I'm talking like friends of mine, industry colleagues. There was actually a radio presenter at 702, whose name I won't mention, who had a municipal issue with one of his properties, and he didn't know that after you've bought a house, the responsibility is yours to go to the city of Joburg and make sure that the account is transferred from the previous seller's name into your name, and then you start paying. So like after 5 years, he had like a big bill and he didn't know that, and he was like upset and he was trying to fight. And I was like, no, this is your fault. This is you. You are the one that needs to sort this out. So I saw that like, like a lot of people are making these mistakes. And like me, now I'm fine. Like with me now with my property stuff, I'm fine. Like in fact, I don't even need to like spend my time like, and I'm gonna use the word waste. I don't need to spend or waste my time like trying to educate other people because like it's not my responsibility. I've got nothing to do with it. Like what you do in your time is got nothing to do with me. But I was like, this thing is so painful because we're in a continent where not even money, but hope is one of the biggest commodities. Like if you just give somebody else the hope for a better day, you've turned that entire person's world around. If you look at all the psychological things that come with owning a property, like anyone that's bought a property can tell you that like the process is daunting from start to finish. But the day you pick up your keys and they're like, well done, Mr. Nkosi, this is yours. You're like, like the sense of pride that you have that comes with that is amazing. Now, what more when you have that sense of pride and then a year or 2 years later, you realize that like, damn, this investment that I made was actually not good. So I was learning so much, I was seeing so much that I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it, but I need to share the information and the knowledge that I have about this thing and not share it at a high level, but share it at a, like, like if you're sitting in a conversation in a bar, how would you share this information? Because property comes with like a lot of jargon. It comes with a lot of terms that like, if you don't know what you're dealing with and you think, I know I've got my, my varsity education from UJ or WITS or UCT and I can read, like, I'm going to understand this thing. You are going to find yourself in a position where you are actually taking your entire family back into poverty, then pulling them out of poverty. So we've got the thing first, we need to pull ourselves out of poverty. Like we need to pull ourselves out of poverty and then start creating wealth. And we are competing with people who have had generational wealth 5 times, 10 times over. Some of us here are going to be the first millionaires in our families, in the history of our families. You know what I'm saying? So like we have a big responsibility on ourselves to make sure that we educate ourselves as much as we possibly can about buying your first property right. Because if you buy the first one right, it makes the second and the third easier. But if you're going to buy the first one wrong and take a financial knock and it's a difficult process, it wasn't a pleasurable process, you're not going to buy a second one. You're going to be the mouthpiece that says to people, stay away from property because property is this. But if you understand that like, I am number one, first things first, pulling myself and my family out of poverty. And when I'm out of the poverty, I am now starting to build and create wealth. So I was there and I was like, a lot of people don't know about this. So let me try in my own way and educate as many people as I possibly can. I've got the social media following, I've got, so like, I don't do it because like, I see an opportunity to make so much money. Like I literally do it because my heart bleeds when I see somebody else buy a property, or like I'm in the queue at the city council to submit plans for something and somebody's crying about something that I'm like, man, there are so many people who have done this thing over and over and over. You didn't need to learn the hard way. If you just picked up a book and read, if you just asked somebody before you did it, like there's so much that you would have known that you wouldn't have had to make the mistakes, because all the mistakes have been made. All the mistakes have been made. You just need to not be arrogant to think that like, no, if that guy made the mistake, I won't make the mistake, and learn from those things. So for me, like what I do is I teach I wouldn't even call it teaching. I'm sharing. If you like the knowledge, amazing, use it for your own benefit. If you have issues with it, like I'm not even like going to put myself in a position where I'm going to argue with you, because I know what I'm doing. And I know that my heart and my spirit and my soul is in the right place with the sharing of the information and like how I'm going about it. Like I've had banks approach me to like, let's do things where we do this. And I'm like, no, but this thing, if we do it this way, it's not going to be good for the people
Yes.
that buy into it.
Yes.
So I could have taken the check and just been like, I was born and now, you know, like I've tweeted, good for you, you know. So like even the partners that I do have, like I know that like those people's hearts are in the right place as far as like what they are doing.
There you are. I like what you're saying, that all the mistakes have been made, all of them.
Yeah.
This generation of ours will never come with anything new. We can only improve on what has already been done.
Yeah. And it's
So,
just sheer arrogance to believe that, um, it, it, sheer arrogance to believe that like you are going to not make the mistakes that have been made. Sheer arrogance to believe that you know more than the next person. You know, like all of us are learning on a daily on a daily basis. You know, it's like for instance, like my first call was like in Yasekai as a look sheet, and I was like, let me also take this thing and turn it into rooms. But when you do the maths and you look at how much you're putting in versus what you're going to get out, it doesn't make sense. But what does make sense, if you are the guy that says, I am interested in doing property in the township, then what you need to understand is that you're not just taking on a single stand point of view. You are taking on a holistic point of view. So you're saying to yourself, okay, I'm going to curate this entire neighborhood, right? I'm going to start by buying the shops or building the shops, and then making sure that like the tenants that are in those shops are the tenants that make sense for this area. Then I'm going to start one house at a time and building houses that like are going to shape this area into something that looks like this. But if you're going to take a single stand view as an idea, let's say for instance, like you decide you find a nice corner stand that's spacious and you can build 10 rooms, for instance, right? And you build 10 luxury rooms. What's the point of building 10 luxury rooms on that one property when your next door neighbor wakhe imikuku and is renting out leyo mkuku leyo at 400 or 500 rand cheaper than what you're renting out your rooms at? So you see what I'm saying is that like you need to be able to take an area view, which is why it's easier to invest in Sense and easier to invest in the CBD, because everyone else that's around there is focused on uplifting that area. Yeah.
yeah. And the point that I also want to pick up on is around sharing the information, because this is exactly why we started this Saturday sessions. And this is exactly why we made basically this Saturday sessions are free, because we don't charge anything other than the commitment fee. All I don't want, the 250 that's paid for the 4 sessions, is just for our guests to be able to for me to know that when I invite someone, there will be people that you will be speaking to. And it is critical, because those that have traveled the road, it's important to look back and share the information that they have. And that's why we appreciate your time for being here. Just if we can pick it up, and this is my last question, and then we're going to open up for the audience. Maybe they can ask a few questions, and then we can let you go. My last question, and we're picking up on the points that you have raised in the answer that you've just given, the importance of coaching and mentorship. How do you see that? How important it is for the people that have not? Because what me and you have done is to say, me and you, we've got a responsibility to look back and share the information. Now me and you are available to share the information, but now let's look on the other side, the people that we want to share the information with. How important that they see us as the people that are available to share the information.
You know, it's like I have a completely different view on that. Like my view is this: like I'm going to share knowledge that is out there, and I'm going to bring it to you in a space where you can easily find it and read it, or watch a TV show, or listen to an interview or a session like this. like I have my own ways that I personally invest in property. What I'm like strongly focused on as far as like teaching other people is how to buy your first one. Because if you buy your first one right, it makes every other one easy. So like, and the thing is that there's no blanket license that you can apply to like, this is how you do it. Because every single property investor that I've ever spoken to is unique in how they do their own thing. But if you figure out and understand holistically how to buy one, it's very easy for you to understand that like, okay, actually, the second one that I'm going to look at, this is how I'm looking at it already, you know? So like buy your first one right. And before you even buy the first one, like make sure that you've got all the knowledge possible and that's out there so that like you can do that first process right. Like my investing strategy for how I do residential. I mean, like I use what's available to me. I use my celebrity. I use my connections. I use my network. And the next person won't have all those things. So I can't show you how to do it the way I do it because I'd be lying to you. You're not going to be able to do it my way. You know what I'm saying? Like I see certain deals before they even, like I know about certain deals while they're still thinking about them. I'm invited to be one of the first people to look at certain deals. Like not everyone has that opportunity. So if I'm going to say the right way to buy a property, an investment property is this, I'd be lying to you because you're not going to be able to duplicate the model. You know, so I'm focused on this is how you buy your first one. The first property that you buy, this is how you do it. And then everything else is because also some people aren't investors. Some people are just like, I just want to buy my first house right so that like, you know, like so that the interest rate is right. The area that I buy in has capital appreciation so that like when I pass on, I can leave my family like an asset and not a burden. And some people are like, listen, man, like I just want to use my first one as a springboard into my next 10. Like, so people are always different. Like, the problem ngabantu abamnyama is that we've got this mentality ama-scoppers. Yawazi ama-scoppers ukuthi yini? Those couples that they sell on the side of the road. So umama oyi-one makahlela athengisa ama-scoppers, nalo mama lo ohleli next door naye
uthengisa ama-scoppers. Yes.
ukuthi oyi-one athi, you know what, like mina ngizothengisa ama-peanuts, wena uthengisa ama-scoppers, lo uzothengisa ama-avo, so that when one person comes to buy, they can buy different things from different people. So we always think that like if you want to did it this way, this is how I'm going to do it. And it doesn't work like that. You literally need to find your own way. And that's a difficult part, but nothing worth having comes easy. So buy your first one the right way. Every other one after that one is literally up to you and what you are comfortable doing. Because also like my risk appetite versus your risk appetite are definitely going to be different. Like there's things that like make me sleep easy at night that you couldn't possibly go to sleep at night thinking about, you know? So mentorship for me is when you go to varsity, that's mentorship. When you do a course, that's mentorship. When you read an autobiography, that's mentorship. When you read someone's tweets, that's mentorship. You know, when you're watching Isibaya, that's mentorship, because mentorship is anything and everything that you put in your mind that helps you shape the person that you are. So you also need to be careful about how you're getting mentored and who is mentoring you. But you don't have to physically have met someone to consider that person your mentor. Like one of my biggest mentors is a guy called Sam Zell from the US. I've never met him. All I've done is watch what he does, how he does it, read his books. And like, you know, like if there's an interview, I'm on it. If there's whatever he does, like I'm always watching like what he does and what he says. But nalapo, like I'm also listening to the guy with the context of understanding that ukela phezulu, whatever he's talking about now. But if I had to sit one-on-one with him, he'd dive deeper into what he's saying. So if I say to you, go buy property, like I'm hoping that you're understanding that, like when I say go buy property, I'm saying go buy property the right way. I'm not just saying like if there's a stand available, just buy it. Like understand everything about that stand, understand everything about what I'm saying, like, which is why for me, like sessions like this are important because it helps people that just see my tweets, like think deeper and clearer. Yes. Like if you saw the TV show, the property matters on ENCA, all that show was about the basics of how to buy a property, how to find it, when you found it, what to do, what things to look out for. We were eliminating all the jargon that comes with property. So like, yeah.
That is mouthful. And we totally understand that every person is unique and you must find a unique way, your way, the way that fits you to be able to do the things that you want to do. Now, my part is done. Let's then just you guys have any questions. You can raise your hand. I will acknowledge you, and then you can hit. I'm not seeing any hands, or maybe people don't know. Oh, Tina, you can unmute yourself. And you have been listening very attentively. Unmute yourself and Euphonik is listening.
Hey, good morning, Tim.
Morning.
What's up,
Thank you so much for this very, very it's an uplifting and eye-opening information. I would like to know, like, what are the important procedures? Like, as you mentioned that if you build the first, like you get the first property right, and then like others you can do it better. So if I can know the important procedures.
Okay, I think like the very basic things to look out for, you know, it's property is an investment choice, and how you pay for that choice, that choice is a finance choice. So the property that you're going to buy, you need to ask yourself numerous questions about the property. Like, how much is it? Where is it? How are the other properties in that same area performing? In the last year, what have properties in that area been selling for? In the last 6 months, how many houses have been sold in that area and what have they been sold for? So for instance, if you want to buy a property in an area where 30 houses have been sold in that same, in the last 6 months, you need to ask yourself, maybe people here know something that I don't know, because why is everyone selling their house?
Yeah.
If you're buying in an area where 2 houses have been sold in the last 2 years, then you're like, okay, why is everyone keeping their houses? So all of those are like very important questions to ask. So like, let's start with the actual house. Like, ask yourself holistic information about that property. Like, go to the closest police station. How's the crime in this area? Ask people that are like on the streets, like, what do you guys think of this area? What happens in this area? So there's like, because it's not a short-term choice, it's a long-term choice. You need to make sure that the questions that you ask are such that like the day you take over the property or move into the property, you know every single thing about that property. Think about what you know about where you live now. You know a lot of things about that area. So what kind of advice would you give to somebody who wanted to buy the house next door yours? Like, what would you say to them? You know, like, how's the load shedding in the area? How are the services in the area? How's the crime in the area? Like all of those questions. Then on the investment side, how much is the property? How much deposit have you got? What is the interest rate? What is the term that they're giving you? You know, like, if you default and because like we're all human, so we all have our things. If you default on the property, what's the position that the person that you've borrowed the money from going to put or leave you in? So it's just like, if you hear what I've just said, it's literally like, those are just the basics, but it's the basics that we all overlook. You know, also, like, besides the cost of this property, like, I always make reference to like the guys that buy like a GTI, but you've only factored in what the installment's going to cost you. You haven't factored in how much the tires for the car are going to be. If the windscreen cracks, what do you have to pay? Like all of those things. So like this property, over and above your bond, what's it going to cost you on a monthly basis? So those are things to think about.
Okay, thanks, Bra. And Mweketsi?
Hi, good day, gentlemen.
What's up?
Thank you. I'm good, Euphonik. Thank you for your presence. I'm very, from my side, I'm learning a lot. I'm trying to be an investor, but it's tough, like you said. I've got two questions. The one is on COVID. I have a property and I have a tenant that has been paying from March. And like you guys said, the Ubuntu part had to come in and all those things. I understood that they couldn't get paid and all those things. And they haven't paid, like I said, from March until now, they are not paying. And they're still in my property. And I have to pay the bank. I took the 3 months holiday. It's over now. I still have to pay the bank. They're still not paying. And I recently found out that they both been retrenched.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been tough. Because now I've been thinking now. Yeah.
So I mean, like on that, there's been so much information that's been like, and excuse me if I'm going to be harsh on you, no?
Not a problem, guys.
Yeah, there's been so much information that's been given about procedural things that you should do in order to deal with your tenants during COVID, you know. So unfortunately, like Ubuntu also needs to come into play with the legal system in place. So if you didn't do all the legal things and put the legal things in place and only apply Ubuntu, then you are the one that's going to suffer. Because if you have to start the procedure of trying to evict those people now, it's going to be bad. But if in the beginning it was like, oh, okay, what everyone else doing, let me teach myself about what everyone else is doing, let me apply those things, you would know that, like, and again, like what they've said is that you literally have to have had a conversation with your tenant. You need to have tried to mitigate it.
Tenants,
have really mediate together before it goes to the courts. So if you haven't done all of those things and like put all of those things in place, it's going to be an even more difficult process for you to get those people out. And again, like you are an investor, like for a business, you always take your emotion out of a business. There's no like emotions applied to a business. You know, like, yeah, you can apply like Ubuntu because like it's the whole world was under distress, you know, but like you must do what's best for the business. You know, like, unfortunately, you're going to have to evict those people. Yeah. Unfortunately, they're going to have to make another plan. But, like, they can't be staying in that property and not paying you at the risk of you and your family sinking deeper into poverty because of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, so get legal advice about what needs to happen in order to get them out of the property. But then again, like, the area that you're renting the property out in, are people like lining up to rent in that area, or are you going to end up with a property that's empty?
Yeah. Okay, let's move on. Ladies and gents, I don't want us to have follow-up questions because otherwise we're going to sit with Euphonik here the whole day. Yeah. So let's move on to Nkanyiso. Nkanyiso? Ndlovu. Hey, Ndlovu, I'm not sure what's going on with him. Maybe let's go to Rankgoto.
Hey, bro, Eupho.
Sure, put.
How's it, Brian?
Yeah, all good, man. All good, man.
So, yeah, I'm the kind of person who thinks that all of this on your hands is the product of building your personality or building your mind. I'm not going to question much about property, but I'd like to know, how do you associate with your friends? Do you choose friends? Do you choose your associates, or it just comes random business-wise, or you separate business and pleasure? How do you go around it?
So, yeah, I'm very, very picky with like the friends that I have, and the people that I call friends now are like people that I've known for like 10 plus years, and people that I work with, uh, people that are in my industry. Yeah, for the better part, like I'm at home with my wife and kids, and I'll be doing what I need to do, researching, reading, working on the stuff that I need to be working on. I'm not an overly social person, strangely enough. Like, you know, like I'm not the guy that's like, yeah, it's Saturday, where are we drinking today? Like, I'm
Okay.
not that guy, you know? So, but I do believe that, like, you know, like even the friends that I do have, you know, like you're a product of your surroundings, you know. So like mawuhleli nabangani bakho, what's the conversation, you know? And also, like, not that I said it, but it's been said that if there's 5 of you and one of your friends is a loser, you might as well be a loser yourself, you know. So like I try like spend my time with people who are progressive thinkers, who have progressive minds, who are ambitious, who who um who also understand that like how they do things is not how I have to do things. Because friends have got this thing that like, no, but this is what we all do, you know? So Mina, my circle of friends, like people do their own things. Like I live in the plots. One of my friends wants to live in Sandhurst, and it's like, it's fine. That's your choice. You know, do what you want to do. You know, like, so it's like, and unfortunately, you know, like because we of our environments and how we grow up, like there's people that I grew up with that I haven't spoken to in like 10 years, but when I see them, it's like, you know, it's all cool. We catch up, we chat, but like they're not my regular friends, you know?
Okay. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah. Like I have this belief that, you know, God has given you one life. And if he didn't want you to live this one life to the max, he would have given you 2 lives. So you need to make sure that you maximize on your time, like as much as you possibly can, and like do the things that are important to you. And look, there's people who are like happy, like, you know, like sitting on the couch and not working on stuff all day. That's okay. That's, if that's what you want to do, that's okay. That's you spending your life your best way. There's a quote that I also like. It says, even the best man to have ever lived cannot live your life the best way. And that's fair to understand that. The best man to have ever lived will not live your life the best way.
Okay, thanks a lot, and for all the best in your life.
Sure, sure, sure.
I love the last question, and the reason why, it's because of Euphonik has done many things. If we going to limit him and we lose, and I said this to you, that if we lose this opportunity with him, and we might not get it back again. So, am I still connected? Can you still hear?
To accept from the bank.
Yeah, disconnected.